Hi there. So, today is Monday, September 19th. Welcome to the Sandbox, or I should say the SandStorm Meetup in the Sandbox. So, we are going to be looking at the Ragnarok Game Jam. So, if you aren't familiar with Sandbox Game Jams, essentially every month or so, there's a contest where you can build a game using the same software that is used for the Sandbox. So they have Vox Edit and the Gamemaker. You create your assets in Vox Edit, and then you can basically bring them to life in the Gamemaker. So this contest, the Ragnarok Game Jam, is using those in tandem to make a beautiful experience that is representative of the Ragnarok universe, which is a romantic fantasy MMORPG. So we're going to be taking a look at this Medium article, giving it a quick read through, and introducing you to what gets someone involved in a game jam, how one could start and just, make content, make a game. And this will likely be a multi-week kind of structure. We'll see what the deadline is. If the Sandstorm will allow me to. I would love to revisit this the next coming weeks, and we can keep up to date in progress. Based on how much time we have left in the game jam itself, which I believe the deadline is coming close, we're going to make a simple game from start to finish, and I'm going to walk you through some of the steps it takes to, make a game from pre-production to post-production, and probably the last couple sessions or so we'll take a look at like how to share it better, how to make, let's say, like a gameplay video, and of course everything that comes in between. So if you have questions when it comes to game development, I am more than happy to answer them. But welcome in, everybody. I see we've got nice assortment of friends here in Twitch chat. We're also broadcasting to Twitter, and the VOD will be found on YouTube later on today. So if you're unable to catch us live, hello, how are you doing? My name's halfd0rk. But let's go ahead and take a look at this Medium article. So again, we're taking a look at the Ragnarok Game Jam. And there's a couple of creators here in chat. So let us know if you're working on a game jam yourself. So we're celebrating the 20th anniversary of Ragnarok. So if you have, a little bit of history, with playing this game, this franchise, it'll probably give you a leg up at the competition. A game jam such as this is actively looking for fans, looking for lore that is well used in a unique experience, basically a fan service project. So this game jam is basically creating our own iconic representative content from Ragnarok Online. So it's an MMO that we're kind of recapturing that magical feel. The theme is finding interactive content that uses that Ragnarok universe and that narrative. The prizes, this is where it gets crazy, because I think we're going to see a lot of great competition. Slater Raid, you played Ragnarok? Oh man, I wish I knew more about it. And so now I'm kind of jumping into it, because Ragnarok really does have like a lot of in-depth lore and this whole universe to explore. Oh, thanks, OG. Saw a compliment. Appreciate you. So this is a crazy amount of sand that they're providing as a reward pool. So there's going to be several categories that allows newbies to participate. So if this is your first time getting involved in a game jam, the Ragnarok theme here is going to be very encouraging, because there's going to be prizes even for like the rookies, so to speak. So first place, 10,000 sand, a little bit under $10,000, probably closer to 8,000. So we have second place, which is 8,000 sand. That's closer to like $6,000, $7,000. 7,000 sand, closer to 5,000 USD at this time, but still amazing prizes. But that's not all. There's going to be prizes for categories and participation. So we can see the best idea, which is going to be 25 people. So 25 different games other than our top three will all receive 5,000 sand. That's a lot of moolah. Best design, another 10 people or game developers or teams, 3,000. And then participation award, 100 sand just for making a game. So if this is your first time getting involved in participating in a game jam, there's a good chance that you'll at least be rewarded for your time spent. So 100 sand, that's roughly $80 at this time. So they do give a quick note that the participation prizes are for people that aren't receiving other awards, such as first, second, third. There's also going to be event awards where people will pick, like a community vote. And that's 1,000 sand for 10 different developers. This is something I'll probably participate in, but a Gamemaker guide. So making a video tutorial to introduce people to the Gamemaker. Maybe breaking down a certain mechanic. If these are the types of things you'd like to see, and if maybe there's a video you would like to see in the sandbox, why don't you make it? There's a great reward just for participating. 500 sand. And then there's also going to be some social events hosted by Ragnarok. So again, this is 250,000 sand that's being divided up into these various categories. Incredible that Ragnarok and the team behind them are willing to do so. I was built for that. Well, Slater, I'll definitely participate because I think that it's definitely up my ante. Or up my alley, I should say. Coming home to HD. Well, Philip Light, welcome in. Hope you're doing well. So there's going to be a raffle. So just by participating, again, you're going to be placed into a raffle. So again, if you are a rookie, if this is your first time exploring the sandbox and you're interested in building a game, just keep in touch with us here at SandStorm Meetup. There is a Discord that you can join to talk with me as well as other creators in the space. We're all willing to share our knowledge and help newbies especially get involved when it comes to creating in vox edit. So making an asset, maybe even just a custom character. Let's say you have something in the back of your head. Why not make it? And then we can animate it together. I can show you how to do that. And then we can make it gamified. So we can put it into your experience. You can have a whole quest to where your character is going on an adventure to save the Ragnarok metaverse. And so now that we understand that there is a whole prize pool associated with being a rookie even, and just submitting something, we can see that there's going to be judge rules that we can take a closer look at the judging process, but maybe we'll do that closer to when we're finished. But the important dates here is that it's already started. This competition began September 7th, and it goes until October 9th. So we have, quick math, about 20 days, so roughly 3 weeks. And we're going to be going through the process. Hopefully today, next Monday, and the following Monday, I'll be able to show you what I work on behind the scenes, as well as capture something really unique here at the SandStorm Meetup, and just try to make this game exclusively with you all. So if you have questions, please feel free to ask them. Anything that I can see here live, I would love to answer. But if your questions go under the radar, or perhaps you're not able to attend the live, make sure you join the SandStorm Meetup Discord. So that's a great way to get in contact with us and make sure that your voice is heard. So when you're ready, you can submit using their Google form here, and then it's going to be on the Gamemaker gallery. So if you're interested in playing user content, you can use that Gamemaker gallery. It's the software found on the Sandbox system. So if we go to sandbox.game, it's basically on this create page here. And you can download the Gamemaker and get started today. It actually is quite simple. And we're going to walk through making a first experience. So we'll be walking through that. So everything here looks great. Important things to note is that we have to use the Gamemaker software provided by the Sandbox. We do not need to use their NFTs. We can make our own or use the ones previously, in the library, the free assets, if you will, in the Sandbox. We have to use assets that we created or made in the Sandbox. So we cannot, and this is an exclusive clause. This is something that they actually are starting to put into all of the rules, that we cannot use other people's assets. So if you didn't know, you can add custom assets made by other people for free. But this rules for this game jam is basically stating, hey, you can't do that for this competition. So no NSFW stuff. We do need to follow the theme of Ragnarok. That's an important thing to note. We can't just copy something we've already made. It has to be created after the start date. So lucky for you, now's the best time. Low quality entries are not going to receive any of the awards, so you do have to, put in some effort. And the review and voting will be done both by the people behind Ragnarok, so that's the Gravity Studios, and the Sandbox. It might be nice to get some, land publishing, more or less marketing in the future if yours is chosen. So great. Now that we have all this, one other thing I would recommend is learning a little bit more about Ragnarok. So if you do start to invest your time in this game jam, you should totally check out the Ragnarok main page as well as their Wikipedia. So there is a fan-made Wikipedia where you can learn more about Ragnarok and all the things that go into it. Lucky for me, I got Slaterade here. Slaterade has played Ragnarok before, so he'll feed me all the lore. But otherwise, I do have an idea in mind, but I would love to hear suggestions as well as thoughts or any comments you all have about making this Ragnarok themed game jam. So as we're kind of like scrolling through this, I'll tell you about my idea, and we'll start making this essentially the base, the template game inside of the Gamemaker. So I've already got this open. We're going to go ahead and create a new experience. And I don't know how many of you are fans of anime, but there's a genre called isekais. Does anybody know what an isekai is? Don't worry, I'll wait. It is a huge genre for sure. And yeah, Korean MMOs, I agree with Nervex. Hack and slash is not boring. I don't think that's boring, Salt Doge. Especially if it's your first game. It's a great way to introduce yourself. Hack and slash is very sandbox friendly. And so it's a great entry point. Because you got to start somewhere. You're not going to make the Mona Lisa in your first game, No, please do tell. So, hi Apex Mick, by the way. So an isekai, just for reference, is a term used for putting a average Joe in a fantasy world. So that's the idea we're going to play with our Ragnarok game jam. Is basically we're going to put our character, so you, the player character, in a Ragnarok themed metaverse or universe. And so your kind of role, your quest is going to be, as the player, learning more about Ragnarok by being thrust into this fantasy world. So I would like you all to kind of vote, or at least the first person to say something, because it might take a while to vote. What theme should we go with our isekai? So it could be in the jungle, it can be in Antarctica, it can be in the meadows or a nether region, desert or lake. Oh, Go West said the first one, so we're going with Antarctica. So we're going to Ragnarok, Antarctica, isekai. Game Dizzy, so close. Roxy, I would love to have you as a wolf in my isekai. V, we've summoned V. Welcome in, V-Box. And Game Dizzy, next time. Next game jam, I'll let you decide it. So in our Antarctica-based world, we're going to have a little bit of like a camp. So basically a starting location. Again, I want this game to be relatively simple. I don't think we need to have anything too exclusive or eccentric for our learning, chance here. So this entire stream here with SandStorm Meetup, as well as next Monday and the following Monday, I want to make sure it's very beginner friendly. So we're going to keep it simple. So what we'll do is we'll make like a little bit of a camp. So like a quest hub is a great way to describe it. So I'm going to find some blocks here. We'll use some dirt. And I'm going to go ahead and fill out this entire area. So what I can do is I can hold down Control, and that allows me to replace blocks. So you can see, holding down Control, I can drag and drop and fill in all of these blocks over here. Yeah, so I'm starting to see it. We can have like a little bit of like a gradient of different blocks to make like a landing area. And the way I visualized this the first time was having like barracks. And I'm sure you've imagined this, you know, in wartime, they have like these pikes that stick out that defend your camp. So what we'll do is we're probably going to visit VoxEdit in the near future, if not today, maybe next week. But I'm going to make pikes like those, and then I'm going to kind of decorate this scene to where it feels like they're defending against whatever enemies are in the Antarctic. So Go West chose the ice area. I mean, personally, I would have gone with the Nether, but I think we can make some really cool enemies in the ice as well. So maybe there's like some vicious undead polar bears. So now that we have like this little kind of starting area, what I'm going to do is start placing assets. So the first thing I would suggest with anyone, as soon as you start working, is kind of visualizing the scene. So this is relatively basic. I mean, this is a template. They gave us this to start. But we're going to probably put some caves that go underground. Maybe we'll have like a castle in the far corner. We'll probably have like a cave system that uses the entire bottom area. But obviously, we don't want to be able to see it right now. So as the player kind of enters, this is all they'll see. Is they'll be like, oh, we've arrived. So now that we're here, we'll talk to quest NPCs and they'll be like, oh, I need you to get some rare minerals from underground. And then this guy over here says, there's some icy skeletons over in the far corner. Can you take care of them? And so these are the types of thoughts, you know, I'll have as we start to build. I'll go ahead and save here. Yes, Nervex. I feel like they should have exclusively said that, but it goes without saying in a way. Nervex is those assets are part of the sandbox experience. So I will just take a quick peek because that's a very good point, Nervex. That it needs to be kind of said in the rule book that we need to use. Yeah, here we go. So it is part of the rules. Your entry should only include assets that you either created or made by the sandbox. So it was phrased a little poorly, but it makes sense in the fact that the sandbox made these assets. Just make sure you're using any of the assets that have that sandbox game official account. Ironically, sandbox has like several accounts, but these are what we're looking for. Those are the assets we want to use. Some of the assets I use have been for other game jams in the past, and so they're still in my inventory. So you just need to be very careful, especially if you're using other people's assets. And I need to preface that in this game jam, we cannot use other people's assets. You will get disqualified. So any assets you created or were made by the sandbox. So that being said, I cannot use these Touche assets because they're not mine. I didn't make them. But we can use our dirt made by the sandbox. And I'll go ahead and drag and drop it onto my hotbar here. And so I can swap between those. I'll probably see what water is available to me. So this is sandbox water. So I can put that on my hotbar. We'll probably have some lava, but maybe not for a while. So I'll keep that on my hotbar for now. I've personally made some swamp water, but we're in the Antarctic, so I don't think we're going to be using swamp water. And then we have some ice. So Sandbox did give us some ice, so we can use that. Anything else we should use? If anybody has suggestions, I would love to hear them. The idea that I have, you know, in the back of my mind is this isekai Ragnarok. Like the player is thrust into this Ragnarok universe. They need to help in order to go home. So we're probably going to make a few things. So I'm going to go ahead and doing this all in the sandbox just so it's easier to follow. I'm going to make a sign. So we're going to use a sandbox official sign, and this is just for our reference. These are kind of fun facts, I guess I do when I'm game developing, but I'll use this sign, which is like a nuclear kind of sign, and I use that for dev notes, so developer notes. And because this is so abstract, this is not going to make it into the final product, and I'll be able to kind of like visually know, like, hey, this nuclear sign isn't going to be in my fantasy world, so I can just understand, like, oh, I'm putting my notes on this. So I'll put like a speaker component, and it'll say assets to make, and I'll actually title it that. So I've copy pasted into the name here, assets to make. So it's kind of like a cheat sheet for me in a way. So when I get close, it'll kind of blurt out all of these assets that I'm going to make. We're going to do wooden stake battle field. So I'll be making those. And then I also wanted to make some like ice themed assets, like icicles. And so I'll keep adding to this. Using an asset to write your notes can be very helpful, I would say. And then we also have this sign. So this sign here, this is another Sandbox asset. I often use these to mark where an NPC might be, or even more specifically, like a quest. So we can start dropping in NPCs all around. Mary is a good choice as a default. And so if I have this sign here, it almost tells me, oh, this is, an interactable asset. Roxy says we need wolves. We definitely need some wolves. I agree with that. So we'll probably have our first quest for today be the wolves stole food from our camp late at night. We need you to go take care of the wolves and retrieve some of the food that they stole. So what we'll do is we'll have the wolves themselves drop an item. So that's something we'll set up today, because that's relatively simple. So the wolves will drop some food. So what food do we have available? I made a hot dog. This is one of my first assets, I think. It's kind of hilarious that the memories are flowing back in the form of hot dogs. Sure. These, the hot dogs of Ragnarok. So that's going to be the food that they drop whenever we slay them. And I would like to give the player the option to be kind of like a pacifist. So our player can kill wolves and get these hot dogs, or the player can like sneak in to their little den, go find a wolf den. So this is another Sandbox official asset, so we won't get in trouble for using it. So in the den, maybe we'll hide some hot dogs. So this is me just walking through, like, hey, this is the quest, idea, and I'm able to what's called block it. So blocking is a theater term, and that means placing objects where they're supposed to go, but not like committing to it. So essentially I'm blocking, and blocking is a great term because it's Sandbox and it's blocks, but like I'm blocking out, like, oh, I think I'm going to put, a den over in this far corner next to the water. Yeah, that's where a couple wolves might live. And maybe we'll have like a little cave system. So we can put the cave like right here. Maybe we'll go underground with it. So I'll just start kind of digging it out. And so this will be kind of like our wolf den. So that's a good starting point, I would say. Good old Glizzy. JKing, is it possible to make it so enemies have a detection system where they have a cone of vision and can hear if a player's running? Would be cool to make a stealth type game. So JKing, I love where your head's at. That's actually a promised feature in the future. So we'll be able to customize it much, much better in the future. But we can fake that with a little bit of advanced Gamemaker tactics. And I would love to visit that just now, just for fun, because it's a good use of Gamemaker to use, mini mechanics to make something more advanced. So what we'll do, and because we were talking about like, yeah, the player can be a pacifist if they really want to. So we're going to set up that type of detection system. So if you sneak behind, let's just say there's two different wolves here, and they're kind of, facing each other, but more or less they're like guards. And I'm going to go ahead and put some snow on my hotbar as well. So we'll have this little mountain of snow here that kind of like creates this path or a tunnel. And I'm just using the basic block here. And then on the top right, I can choose the different shapes. So we have this diamond, but maybe I'll make the mountaintops themselves like circles or spheres. And then to take it one step further, I'll use a different block and replace like a portion of the mountain with ice. I think ice might look better with the diamond shape. But great, now we have this idea of this kind of mountain range. With that in mind, we're going to place some mechanics on these wolves to where we could try and sneak around them. We'll have a very unique path that is carved into our mountain that the player could totally spot and be like, oh, maybe I don't have to fight the wolves. And then we'll probably set up a quest depending on how much time we have. So I'm going to go ahead and just explore this idea that JKing threw out. Hey, Brock Tholomew, what's up? And good morning, FMA. Welcome. Field of vision is possible to make with the speaker parented to the NPC. Yes, so Philip, we're on the same page. I was going to be making a speaker component in this area. So basically an asset. And for those of you that know me, you know I like to use lamps. This is another Sandbox asset. But these lamps, they essentially have a low face count. So even though they're tall, those are all faces. So you have 4 faces on each side, 1 face on the top, 1 face on the very bottom. And then you can see it's got this ridge on the bottom. That's the only thing that makes it a little bit, quote unquote, unoptimized. But I still like to use these because they're easy to click, they're easy to spot, and you can hide them in characters. So just as an example, with our friend Mary here, let's just say with Mary, for whatever reason, I had her be non-collidable. And so if she's non-collidable, I could place this lamp and give this lamp different components, different behaviors, and it would serve as the collision for Mary. So you can still kind of push past Mary. You can shoulder bump Mary. You can bully Mary. Don't bully Mary. Anyway, so the idea being with these wolves and this lamp specifically, to get back on track, it's going to be a speaker component with a detect entity. So if the player steps into this blue radius here, the wolves will attack. Otherwise, the wolves will not attack. So that's the AI that we're going to set up here. So this lamp, we're going to remove collisions because this is specifically to trigger our wolves. So we'll call this a trigger just so we can find it easier. If you use naming conventions, it's good to kind of associate them with something. So trigger is a good association. Detect is another one because we are using a detect entity. So we'll do detect player trigger wolf predator. So this is going to make it easier to find in the future, but for now it's also for our reference, so that's very helpful. So what we'll do is we're going to edit the speaker component. We'll remove it from saying anything. So by default, a speaker component is you walking close to an NPC. The NPC says, "Hello, player, how are you?" Instead, we're going to do that same mechanic where we get close to it. This will now detect us, and instead of saying "hello, player," we're going to make it spit out some logic. So it's basically going to turn our wolves aggressive. And so we'll go ahead and make it remove any text, so it's not going to display any text. We'll make it auto hide the delay. This actually isn't too important for what we're doing. By default, it's set at 5. Only once. So we only want this message to go out one time. But the message being spoken will be trigger.wolves. And so this message can now be used to turn these wolves into fighting machines. So for right now, I just want to show you what the setup is. So let's move our starting point over here. So I enter into the game, I'll walk up to these wolves, they don't do anything. And then I can go grab my hot dog. This is the victory hot dog right here. I don't want to make this a victory screen now. Just to do that real quick, we'll give it collectible. When we collide with it, it's going to spit out victory. So we can attach a message called victory for when we pick up the hot dog. And then one more thing we do have to add, and we'll use a lamp for this, is you have to give something the victory condition. And so this is, going a little bit ahead of schedule, but we can see that there is a component for victory that is waiting for the victory message. And our hot dog here, if we pick it up, is basically spitting out that message. Ta-da! Easy game, easy life. But our wolves here, they're supposed to be our antagonists. So what we'll do is we're going to give them each a behavior. So we're going to turn them into predators. So now, with both of them being predators, if I get close, they attack me. So I won't be able to go sneak by and get that hot dog. So that's where this lamp comes in. And I'll move my starting point a little bit back. For our lamp here, it spits out that message that we already set up, trigger.wolves. So you might be asking, how do I make that message turn these wolves into fighting combat machines? Well, we can still fight them. So they have health components, but we also want to add a toggle behavior. So a toggle behavior allows us to turn off and on the predator. So basically this AI where it hunts down the player, or perhaps like a small animal or mammal that you place in your game. Stop numpad racism. Bajoran, numpads are the simpletons asset. I use lamps. This is the noble asset here. The beautiful elongated lamps. And so with our lamp sending out that trigger.wolves message, we're going to have these wolves be initially off. So they won't just immediately start charging at you until they spot you. So what we can do is we can have the toggle also set to the default, none. But they're going to be waiting for that trigger.wolves to turn on that behavior. And so we'll do the same thing here. We'll do a toggle behavior. And we're going to remove the default states. And they will be initially off. So instead, we want the trigger.wolves message to be received. And once it's received, these will start to chase the player. Lamps are life. I agree, Fred. Hey, DJ Wyzak. What's up, dude? Welcome in, everybody. If you're new here, this is the SandStorm Meetup, where today we're exploring how to start a game jam. So if you are interested in participating in the Ragnarok game jam, which I highly recommend if you're new, like this is the best time to get started. Mainly because the prizes is for literally like the top 500 people. And between you and me, usually about 50 people are submitting for these game jams. So 500, I'm not going to say it's guaranteed, but it's very good chances that you will at least get a participation prize. So that's why we're talking about it. It's well worth your time. And it's also a great, MMO RPG type aesthetic. So you're given a lot of lore, a lot of content to base a game off of. So all you'll have to do is make a game in the Ragnarok universe. And so we're going to be adding that to our game as we go. But for now, we're working on the mechanics. So our wolves here, right now, I can enter into the game, and this time I'm going to get close to them, but without touching the lamp. And I can even slap them if I want to, but we like our wolves here. But if I approach, now that I've gotten close to this lamp, we can see the wolves are now angry. They're mad at me. Hey, don't touch our hot dog. It's my hot dog. Victory. And so now that we've set that up, I can use this as kind of the aggro point. So it's like they've detected me. I could even have like a cool asset appear above their head. Like they could have like a exclamation point, like if you from those old stealth games. And we can add those as we go to, give this idea of stealth mechanics. But this was a great experiment. And so what we can do is we can hide this. So no collisions. So I can walk through this object and it's hidden so we don't see it. And we'll probably make it more conal in shape. So if we were to look at, assets, or I should say at a stealth mechanic, it's usually a small triangle shape that spreads outwards. So we'll have that same shape kind of end right there. And then this one might be a little bit thinner. So we can see I've now kind of used two detectors, both of which use the same message. But the two of them are like a small circle and a large circle. And I could even place, one more outside of their radius here. I would like more of a starting place or a way for the player to avoid them. Maybe we'll have like some bushes. I don't think we have these, which I guess fit. I'll place a couple bushes. And we'll make sure they're non-collidable. So I'll delete the other ones. And then I can just take this one and duplicate it. Click R to rotate it randomly. Rotate it randomly. I'll even put that one a little bit deeper underground, just to give them a little bit of variation. So these are Sandbox official assets. With grass specifically, I would highly recommend keeping no collisions turned on. By default, collisions will be on. So you do have to manually set that. Once you set it up once, you can just duplicate it. And so with our wolves, we'll have this patch of grass here. And I'll make a couple versions. And then kind of mash them together here. So it's basically like once I step out of the grass, that's when the wolves will attack me, because we set up those two different detection radiuses, and we can see that it will detect us once we walk into that clear area. And the grass at this point is just for reference, really. Great, so we can test it out. And I made this little staircase. Looks like I didn't finish it. So we'll do one more here. You do always need to keep in mind like what direction a player will go, just because there's always going to be some sort of hiccup, something a player will get stuck on. Even if it's simple and you've played through it 10,000 times, that doesn't mean, the first time someone plays it, they'll be able to follow that same logic. Bartholomew, what's the best way to get the info for these game jams? And J. King also asked, I apologize, I just now saw, let me share with you that link. It is on the Sandbox Medium. I would actually highly recommend you all follow or bookmark the Sandbox Medium. And so this is literally all the news for the Sandbox. Wow. Just now, good timing, I suppose. The Thunderbirds have a Vox Edit contest. So we can just gloss over this real quick. But if you are interested, there is now a contest for making assets. So Vox Edit would be like creating characters, avatars, assets, vehicles, wolves, whatever you like. And so now there is the Thunderbirds type theme here. So that's like, I think Space Rangers type deal. So they're like astronauts, but you can create any asset directly inspired by this iconic TV series. So if this is something you're interested in, do give it a look through. And this is all on the Sandbox Medium page. So I'll be sure to copy that link, share it here. Team America, but serious. That's a good reference, Slate Raid. And of course, the Builders Contest. So Slater Raid, if you have a link for that, I would love to be sharing that around. The Sandstorm also. So Sandstorm here, this Twitch channel, like they're also doing constant builders contests. There's a great community of builders on the Discord, and it's a good place to learn and get started and ask questions. Like we're welcoming rookies of all ages, all learning abilities to get you involved with the sandbox and making cool stuff. That's what it all boils down to. But yeah, you can learn about all the NFT drops, basketball legend, Dame Time. This game was fantastic. I played it today. And then essentially whatever is going on in the sandbox. Every single day, it seems there's a new article, usually relative to whatever experience came out today in the alpha. There are 3 game jams going on right now, and so we're talking about Ragnarok's game jam at the moment. Okay, so with our wolves, if we walk through the brush, so this might be like a key mechanic to our game, is walking through the brush. So it's like, as long as I'm in the brush, I'm safe. But the second I step out of it, we can see the wolves now noticed me. And so now they'll attack me on sight. So to complete this, we'll probably move our detector just a little bit, and then we'll remove a couple of these blocks, just so it gives the player like an idea. Like if I get any closer, those wolves will notice me. So instead, we'll just take some more of this grass. And again, it's because it's non-collidable that we're able to walk through it. And so that's an important distinction when you're building, is having non-collidable grass, flowers, what have you. And right now I'm selecting multiple at a time. I'm rotating them. So I'm using O on my keyboard to switch between this rotation, I to move it. And then I can also hit R to randomly rotate it. But because I have so many here, you can actually rotate it on a local axis. So that means like I have these all selected. So now it's rotating them kind of like as a group. And so that's very convenient. So I can give them a little bit more randomization. We'll go ahead and move a couple more of these grass patches. Then we'll select some, we'll duplicate them. These, I'll rotate them. So now we have this kind of like platform that we can run around in and not be noticed by the wolves. And eventually I can get up and over and sneak behind them. My hot dog. And then we're also going to be hiding more hot dogs in here. And instead of the hot dog granting us victory, it'll be a quest that we have to accomplish. So because we have enough time, let's go ahead and set up a quick quest. So this is kind of like the basic foundational system that I go through. Oh, JK. Hey, thanks for the question. Can that also trigger an invisible wall, forcing a player to fight them? Ooh, I like what you're thinking there, JK. Yes. So, because you're here, you're live with us, let's go ahead and visit that. Let's talk it through. So because I have the trigger.wolves message, what I can do is set up an asset spawner. It's actually hard to see this color. It's white. Let's see if we have a different option. Yeah, let's use these walls. So these are default sandbox walls. And we're going to have 2 of them. So we can see here that our wolves are going to be in front of the walls, first and foremost. So once we're detected, they'll come at us. One thing to keep in mind is they have a chasing area. We can see this blue box around them represents that. So what I can do is I can enhance the chasing area until it covers that entire space, so that that way they will chase the player outside of just their spawning zone. We'll do 10, 2, and 5. Do 10, 2, and 5. So now that they'll chase us no matter where we go, these walls will prevent the player from passing them. So first of all, these walls will be hidden, and we can also have them non-collidable at the start. So basically, they only spawn if the player triggers the wolves. So we'll have non-collidable walls, and we'll give it an asset spawner to where it's spawning a wall. So we can see it's spawning inside of this space. We can give it another wall to spawn. So by using an asset spawner, we're going to disable the visibility of the asset spawner. So this is a toggle that you can set up that it basically overwrites the invisibility that we already gave it. But editing the logic, we can set up a message. So message required will be the trigger.wolves. So this will spawn our cave. The cave itself will be visible. So that is one thing to note. We could use a preset. So I'm actually going to attempt to use a preset here. But for the sake of walking through it, we're going to go ahead and see what this looks like. We're only going to have the one wall for now, just for reference. So it's going to be collidable. It's triggering a wall, and it's waiting for that trigger.wolves. So let's go ahead and see this in action. I have to do a little bit of a walk here. So again, we can walk behind the wolves. No problems. We can even walk through them as though the wall was there. But now I'm going to trigger the wolves. Triggered! And spawn that wall there. So I'm going to see, with the help of presets, if we can make that wall invisible. So very quickly, I'll make a wall. We'll turn it invisible, and we'll keep the collisions on it. And to add a little bit of extra flair, we'll get a speaker that will detect the player and say, "You cannot pass." So it's going to shout that if I get too close to this wall. Now that we've set that up, I'm going to save it as a preset. This will be unpassable wall. And now with our wall that we set up already, that spawns a clearly visible wall. I'm going to put my platform here so I spawn closer. But our invisible wall will spawn using a preset our unpassable wall. And all of the other settings are correct. So let's see how that works. So again, we can walk past the wolves. Nothing happens. Then I can trigger the wolves. You cannot pass. And lucky us, we can use invisible assets with presets. One thing to keep in mind is it did have the name of the cave wall. I want to see, just for my research, if we can remove that name and if it saves it in a preset. My hunch is that it will use a default name here once we spawn it. But I'm just curious at this point. So we're going to be using that preset that will be triggered as soon as we trigger the wolves. Oh, cool. So it did keep the remove name. That actually looks great. Gandalf the Grey has entered the game. Yep. But now these wolves will not leave me alone. I'll have to kill them. Unless we set up some sort of mechanic over here that disables them. But they're not going to chase me into the den. They probably should, to be honest. So we'll go ahead and set up the chasing area to be a little bit larger. 100. 100. They'll chase me to the ends of the earth. Yeah, if you guys have any other questions, please do drop them here in live chat. We're on Twitch and Twitter at the moment. And if you're just catching the VOD on YouTube or Twitch, you can always drop your questions or any comments you might have in the Discord. So the SandStorm Meetup Discord is a great place to learn. So JKing, will it despawn once wolves are dispatched? That is a great thing to set up, another addition, if you will. So with both of our wolves here, because we have 2 wolves, that does complicate things. Like if it was 1 wolf, as an example, that would be very easy to remove 1 wall. If we have 2 wolves, there's a bit of a mechanic we can set up. And this is a little more advanced, but I'll just kind of describe it. I use what I've nicknamed the ball in the basin. So it's like you have an object with weight that falls, but the object is being caught by a basin. So I can use visual objects here to demonstrate. We got our ball, and we got our basin. So just to give you an idea, and we can even set this up real quick. I don't see why not. I can speed run this. So we have an asset on the floor that is going to detect our ball. We then have our ball. So this ball has gravity. It's the most important feature. We're also going to tag it. So this ball has a tag called ball. When the ball hits the lamp, it's going to destroy our wall. But what's preventing that are basins. So these buckets here are going to catch the ball. And we can set as many basins as we like that represent the life of our enemies. So a wolf, so we have like wolf 1. So this we'll call it basin wolf 1. And this one will be basin wolf 2. So when wolf 1 dies, it removes the basin. When wolf 2 dies, it removes the basin. And so if wolf 2 dies first, the first one is still holding the ball. If the first wolf dies, well, the second basin caught it. And it's only when both of the basins are defeated that the ball hits the ground, sending out the message. I hope that makes sense. But yeah, now we can set up with our preset. So this was our preset wall. When the message is received, we're going to delete it. There's a very important feature here. And Roxy says, using rules, making a quest. Yes, that's a great point. So Roxy has a different solution that also works just as well, if not even more consistent, I would say. Having a quest associated with defeating the wolves. Once you defeat the wolves, it would remove, let's say, like an ice wall or some sort of barrier. But just to finish, my mechanic and what I was describing, we're going to attach one of 2 things. And I'll tell you why we're going to choose the second one. So the first one is the health component. So our health component will be waiting for that message. For when the ball touches the ground, it's going to send out a message destroying our invisible wall. However, the invisible wall has a health component. So that means the player could just walk up to it and slap it, and the invisible wall could be destroyed. Instead, the correct solution would be to add a plant behavior. So the plant behavior does not have a health feature. You can't slap a plant. Plants are immortal, that's all. So our plant here, which is a wall, it allows us to attach a kill switch. So it's giving us this ability for a message to destroy it without giving it a health component. So what we'll do is we'll set up wolf. We'll do kill.wolves. I think more specifically, we want to be like wolf's dead. Why not? Sure, because we're not actually killing the wolves. Anyway, I also spelled wolves. Wolves.dead. That's the message. So again, we're waiting for the ball to drop. So we do have to set this up. So it's going to detect the ball. We're going to keep it at a very low radius. because this is a sphere. So this actually has a little bit of a Y to it. It's probably not as tall. It's more like an oval based on my own research, but still, we're going to keep it small. We want the ball to land here. We're also going to make it non-collidable so the ball doesn't like bounce off of it for whatever reason. And so once the ball reaches the bottom, it's only going to happen one time, but it's going to spit out that message, wolves.dead. Great, so we've set that up. And now our wolves here, each of them is going to send out a unique message. So they're going to be, when they're destroyed, we want them to send out a message. We'll do wolf.1.dead. This one is on the right, so I'll make this one the second one. So wolf.2.dead. It's worth noting that capitalization is important. So if you start capitalizing your messages, you need to ensure at least whatever it's connected to also has that capitalization. And we're going to send it to our basin. Of course, you can tag these whatever you like. I'm tagging them based on visibility and what we're looking at. This one here, we're doing the same thing. So inside of its health component, the message sent when it dies is going to be wolf.1.dead. And we're sending it to the basin. Now we can go back to our basin, and each of these has a health component. And that's important. It also could be the plant. So instead, we'll actually try the plant behavior for this. So plant or health component will work here. And we'll do wolf.1.dead. I also added that basin tag. That's very important. So basin. And then we'll do plant behavior, and we'll do the same thing. Wolf.2.dead. So with all that set up, it should work as intended. Again, the ball's falling. It's being caught by these objects. The objects themselves will be removed once the basin has been defeated. The basin is defeated once a wolf is defeated. So it's essentially the basin is attached to the wolf in terms of its life. And so each of these, once they're destroyed, send out that same message specifically to those basins. So let's go ahead and take a look at this. We can see it off in the distance. Hopefully I can take a peek at it from the corner of my eye. I want to kill one at a time just for reference. All right, these wolves are like stacked on each other. Okay. We kill the first one. It's destroyed. The basin is destroyed. I'm about to die. The second one, we kill it. Basin is destroyed. And we see this wall is currently still active. So let's see where I went wrong. We saw the basins were removed. The wolves were removed. Our ball was detected. The wolves.dead message we need to ensure is being spoken. So this is the type of debugging I like to do. I'll probably put the wolves' health at 1. And then we also need to make sure our preset is updated. I believe that's where we didn't resave it. So I do remember adding our preset, or I should say the updated plant behavior, but I don't think we saved it as the preset. So unpassable version 3. Great, so let's test it again. These times my wolves will die a lot faster. And we saw the message was spoken. The wall itself is still here. So we do need to take a look. Wolves.dead is the message being spoken. Wolves.dead is being shouted by our speaker component here. And then this asset is spawning the unpassable wall. And we did save our unpassable wall already. So here is our saved unpassable wall that has a plant behavior. So I'm curious why it wouldn't work. So for now, I'm also going to have this up here. Wolves.dead is the message, and we saw it speak it. So we saw this lamp actually illuminated, with the text above it. Wolves.dead. So that's the message being spoken. So I put my preset on in the background just to see if it would be removed. It removed the preset up there. So now we're seeing if it removes this one, and it did. Okay, so we updated the preset. It seems to be working now. We did it. Is the preset tagged? I don't think the preset needed to be tagged. I think what fixed it, and this is just my hunch at this point, was this asset spawner. I had to go into the preset and reselect it. Everything else was using the same settings. So yeah, just alpha stuff. So everybody, that was our series of game maker mechanics for today. Next week I'll have a little bit more in-depth things to go through. We're making a very simple game for this game jam, but it's something we can use as a learning activity.